Hello, everyone. It's Betty Ray, and I'm here for you to ask Raphael a question. We're live on W4WN radio, as well as I'm doing a live video. And today's topic is about the games people play. When we start talking about this, you're going to get some chuckles because there's just so many ways that people try to have their needs met. That's what we do. We all do that. And we often look to other people to have those needs met. And so I'm doing the radio broadcast and I'm doing a live video. So you can catch this radio broadcast later on my video. You go to YouTube, you look for Ask Raphael and Betty Ray, and you will find us live today as we talk about the games people play. Now, on the video, I'm showing a transparency on the wall that shows the games people play. You know, you can kind of think of your life on planet Earth as a game board. Shakespeare said, "All the world is a stage, and we are actors upon it." And I don't think he knew how true that is. As souls, we come here to play a role in a game that our soul has created for us to play on stage on planet Earth. If you can think of life that way, maybe it'll help you not to take life quite so seriously. And so the games people play are wide and varied, and we could spend the whole day talking about them. But once you understand that everybody's trying to have their needs met, and sometimes their need is just to be heard. And so sometimes we have what we call the anger game. Now, everybody has met that. I'm turning away and I'm hoping that this is working and out. Here we go. Out of fear. Okay. The anger game is a need to control out of fear that one's needs will not be met. You've met people like that. I certainly have. You find that in a relationship, sometimes one or the other or both will use anger to try to control the other person and get the other person to pay attention to them or to take care of their needs. Now, we have to make a statement about that right away because if you're looking to your partner to make you happy, you're in deep trouble because it's impossible for anyone else to make you happy. That's a personal choice, moment by moment, how you're going to react to the rain if it's pouring down outside, or to a person who is in your face right now arguing with you about something, or to a person that just doesn't listen to you. That can be very frustrating. But sometimes you may be the person that is always trying to control the conversation. And anger, this is what we have up here on the screen. Anger is the most popular of ways of controlling others. And if you ever look at Congress, you'll find that certain people will shout and they will be angry and they will try to make you pay attention to them. But what happens is most people just shut their ears off because nobody wants to be yelled at. And especially when somebody's trying to control you with anger. And so pay attention to your own anger barometer and find out what buttons can be pushed to make you angry. And so we say to you that anger is a way of expressing a need that is not being met. It's a fear that that need won't be met. And so it stirs up the the importance of you. It stirs up that importance of you and how you need to be listened to. And so if you have a tendency to raise your voice when you want to be heard, excuse me, it's most likely because you fear you can't express yourself well enough without having to be angry to get their attention. Now, when you can use a soft voice and look the person in the eye and show them that you are willing to listen to them, miracles happen. And people really do listen. But let's look at some more of the games that people play. There's a whole game of relationships. Let's look at the different kinds of relationships. I'll put it up on the screen. For those on you in the radio show that can't see my screen, I have the relationships that show um, a mother and a child. Now, there's no closer relationship than a mother with her child. But have you ever watched mothers, how they discipline their children? As a teacher of many, many years, I had to work with mothers and children, and I found that some mothers want instant obedience and they will smack the child on the behind, or sometimes even more brutally, and because they want that child to stop what they're doing and just listen to this person who rules their life. Well, believe me, they're creating scars in their child because you cannot be a tyrant and expect others to love you unconditionally, which is really what everybody is looking for. Everybody is looking for unconditional love, and you're not going to find it through anger or for any kind. So let's look at the different kinds of relationships again for the people on the radio show that can't see my video. By the way, you can reenact this video by simply going to Ask Raphael, go on YouTube and look for Ask Raphael and Betty Ray, and you will see it, the videos and this radio show. But just to be able to point out to you that, for example, that's the mother child relationship. And that is the closest bond that anyone has. Now, I had four children, and I can tell you that all four of them were unique and different. It is amazing how it can be that way. How can there can be four different children that can be in your family, your children, and they're so unique and different. And how is that? Because each of them has a soul that has a council of elders that helps them choose their parents. Believe it or not, you have chosen your parents. Maybe you personally, but maybe your council of elders, because they know you the best of anyone. And this council of elders, just for clarity, is a group of advanced souls who are no longer incarnating on the planet, but are acting as helpers for those who are here still on the planet and wearing a physical body and having relationships. And so we have the mother child relationship that is the very first one in your life. That's the first person you look to take care of you. And that can be very, very wonderful, or it can be very, very terrible. And so everybody has a story to tell. So if we do plan this life, as I just said, people will ask me, why ever would I pick the parents that I picked? Because maybe they weren't the best of parents. And there's a reason for that too. There's always a reason that you come here. People say, "Why did I come here?" I cannot answer that with with one answer because there's a multitude of reasons. You came here so that you could explore this beautiful planet and so that you could explore it in this spacesuit that you're wearing to be able to live on planet Earth. And believe me, you're sloshing around in a lot of water as you walk in this spacesuit. And it can be very heavy at times, not because you've gained weight, but because it seems like the gravity seems to just pull you down. And that's just the way it is as part of being a sentient being on planet Earth. But every person also has a soul, and that soul is a magnificent being of light. And that's one of the first things that Raphael shows me when I do a reading for someone. And here again, I'm going to give you my email address so you can send me questions if you want to about this episode, or you can ask for a free reading. And I no longer charge for them because I love what I do, and I am giving back all of the blessings that have been given to me. It's time to pay it forward for me. And so, when you get a reading, you get the first thing you get shown is your soul, because that's the first thing that Raphael shows me. I've said this before, but I'm going to say it again. Your soul looks like a huge column of light, more than like a sunbeam, like it's a beam of light itself. And it's beautiful in its color because When I see it, you look like 4th of July sparklers all dancing around in its own DNA pattern. And they have different colors. And we've mentioned this before, and we're going to be saying it often, that every soul has comes in through a certain ray, and that soul color is with them through every single lifetime. They're born through God through an energy ray that colors their soul. So, for example, I'm repeating myself here, but it bears repeating. A red soul is here to learn leadership without being a tyrant, to learn leadership without having to yell and scream at somebody to make them do what they need to do, to have leadership with compassion and with discretion and with empathy and with understanding, not telling somebody if they don't follow your dictates, it's off with your head or you're fired. And that is the way young souls act because young red souls don't know how to be a leader. They only know how to be a bully. And so you have to remember two factors. You have a energy pattern of your soul which shows a color, and that also shows your soul age. In other words, related to being here on the planet. Every time you come back, you gain more wisdom and you leave and you take that wisdom with you and you sort of digest it with your other soul friends. And you have the Council of Elders, as I've mentioned, and they help you to digest your experiences here on earth so that you can get as much knowledge and wisdom out of it as is possible. And so we talk about this all the time in our readings because this is the most important thing. You are a soul first and a physical being second. And that soul tries to keep in contact with your physical brain and your physical beingness so that you can let go of fear and know that you're far more powerful than you give yourself credit for. You are a co creator with God. When you come to this planet as a soul, you've had your council of elders help you to plan the life, helped you to plan the physical body that you're wearing, and helps you plan what it's like to be in a relationship with parents and with maybe siblings, and then an extended family of uncles and aunts and cousins and all the rest of them. Every one of those relationships, as you can see in this transparency for those of you that tune into this video, first we have the parent child. Then you usually have teachers because the minute you get old enough to go to school, off you go to school, even though you may dig in your heels and say, I don't want to go. When I was a young girl, I had a cousin who was like that. She did not want to go to school, and her parents had to practically drag her to school because she did not want to leave home. Now, that might have been you, who, for all we know. But again, the teacher then becomes like a second mother because if you're only in kindergarten, you're only about 6 years old, 5 or 6 years old. When you get six, you go into first grade. But that first experience, if you've had, like my one son did, my one son had a teacher who was a tyrant. She was teaching with anger, and you sit down and you behave. And that just made my son kind of cringe and curl up inside himself. He had stomach problems when he was going to school. Stomach problems. Can you imagine? And finally I intervened and I went to the school and I said, I don't know what's going on, but I said, this is terrible when my son throws up before he has to go to school in the morning. And so I found out that they had a teacher who was very tyrannical and was yelling at the kids all of the time. Well, it wasn't just my intervention. It was probably always, as well as other teachers, that teacher was let go and another teacher came in. Now, this is kindergarten, if you can imagine. Another teacher came in and everything went fine for the rest of the year. My son had no problem wanting to go to school. Now, he had two older brothers who were already in school, so I had three children practically within 3 years. And so they were like always a year apart in school. That made for some juggling of parent teachers associations and meetings and stuff. So there's that teacher relationship. And that goes all the way out through 12th grade. And then for those of you that go to advanced learning, that goes all the way through college. You have lots of teachers in your life, but you also have life's teachers. Friends can be teachers. And that's where we get to other kinds of relationship. Here's showing a picture of two young, this is a sibling relationship, more than likely, because it's a younger brother. Here's his older brother, and there's the younger brother. And they are having a relationship. And sometimes it's a very close bonding relationship. I know that two of my three sons bonded very well. The third son, who was a red soul, was very much an independent person, and he went his own way. And that was part of probably of being the first child born. And so they are often a very much a leader. And there's psychological studies about the place that you are born in the family. First child born, last child born, middle child. There's psychological relationships to all of that. And so you need to look at that. If you have any kind of family uh, relationships that don't go so well, you need to understand that everybody is unique and everybody has a soul. And all of those soul colors don't always blend well together. So sometimes we have dysfunction. But then we have sports relationships. I have a picture up here on the screen for those of you that can't see it. A picture of sitting on the back of a station wagon or a SUV, and all these kids in their sports finery. This is a whole relationship in itself, and that can cause a lot of dysfunction for some people who do not are not accepted, I guess you could say, in a group relationships. And usually there's a leader who can sometimes be a bully because they want to be in charge. They want to be the king of the mountain. And some of those very shy souls that don't speak up for themselves can just get trampled underneath. So, relationships in sports can be very good. And if you have a coach that is paying attention to those kind of relationships, that's a mature soul, you will find that to be a very good experience for them. But if you have a coach who is a young soul and is using that relationship as a coach to dominate other younger people so they do what you're told and don't argue with me, if you get that kind of a coach, you've got a younger soul. And so, parents beware that the teachers and the coaches and the others that interrelate with your children, if they are a younger soul, they will use domination, they will use yelling factors, they will use punishment to get the underlings obey them. And if that's the case, you might have to intervene. Because if you have a child that is very young and very um, afraid, easily afraid, it can cause all kinds of problems. So, as parents, kind of be on the lookout for those kind of bullies. Remember, we've said that anger is often used as a way of controlling people. And and when we talk about a love relationship, which is the last one on here, when we talk about a love relationship, we often find that one person, and I'm putting up another transparency for those of you that can't see this, and it shows a bigger man yelling at a younger man. In fact, his toupee just sort of flies off the top of his head, and the younger man is just not the younger, but the employee is just cringing at this employer who is yelling at them. You can find that that kind of relationship can kill the relationship because you are expecting somebody who is under you, your children, to behave in the way that you think and behave. There's no two people that are ever alike. I don't care if they're twins. They have different souls. and sometimes they are the same soul, but most often they are different souls, and they can just be entirely different because of that. So you have to be careful of anger. I've found that it can be the death of a relationship. And so we caution all of you who find that you need to raise your voice, to think that's what you need to be heard, that you need to take a deep breath and calm yourself down. Make sure that your shoulders are relaxed and that you're breathing abdominally, not chest breathing, that you're breathing abdominally because that helps to calm you down so that you don't use anger as the emotion that will make you have what you need. Now, we also want to talk about, here we go, there is another game that people play, and it's called it's called the tallest building, the tallest building syndrome. Oops, it's got a crooked. There we went. Okay. They have other people who are trying to knock you down so they can be the tallest building around, and they are usually bullies. These are the ones that you find in schoolrooms and classrooms and playgrounds, but they're also found in the office where you have a boss who is constantly berating you and making you feel stupid because they need to be the smartest person in the room. And I think we know about some people in politics. Just as we talked about anger, when I see different people in politics speak, anger can be done in such a way that it is justifiable, but it also can be in a way of drowning everybody else out so that you become the star of the show. And that kind of anger is usually being given by a younger soul who has no other way, can't use a good facts and figures like a good debater. Now, people learn to debate, they learn to argue their point of an argument and to have facts and figures to back them up. But people who don't know how to debate want to get their point across and often end up yelling at everybody else to get the attention and to grab the floor so that nobody else can have it. Those are very immature souls, and you can't outshout them. So they will always try to be the tallest building around. And those are games that people play. And so, again, we're going to talk about anger. If you're in a relationship with a partner relationship, a marriage, and you've got a person who is yelling as trying to be in charge and trying to get their point across, you're going to find it can destroy the relationship. When you have uh, somebody is trying to use anger and force, it'll kill the relationship. And that means expectations. If you put expectations on your spouse to take out the garbage, for instance, and when they're ready to go off to work, like I remember one time with my husband, I had the garbage set right at the garage door from the inside of the house. And his mind was on work so much that he wasn't paying attention. He was actually in his mind, he was at work. And he had a very important job. And he as he came to the back door, he saw the garbage and he picked it up and put it into the laundry room, opened the door and walked out, went out to work. He didn't get the hint. But did I use anger at him when he got home? No, because I knew how his mind worked. And I knew that he must have had a thorny problem he was working out because that's where he was. He was at work working out that thorny problem. Now, if I had used anger at him when he got home, how come you didn't take the garbage out? I put it right by the door. That's your job to do. He would have turned his ears off because he didn't need to have that. He had no intent to do me any harm, to do something that would cause any dysfunction in the relationship. And I knew that because intent is a key factor in what you do in a relationship. If you have no intent to do harm to another person, and that person takes what you say or what you do as harming them and they're angry about it, don't be upset. Just help them understand that you had no intent to upset them, and that if that is the way it turned out, you apologize simply for that, but you had no intent to cause harm. There is a big difference when you realize that. When there's a relationship and you're trying to make your point heard, and you know that that other person is in a state of mind where they can't even think straight because they're so upset, you might as well just button up the mouth and forget about it because they cannot hear you. And so anger can be quite a problem in relationships. Now let's look at other kinds of relationships that we have out there. Now there is marriage relationships. Let's go back up to our first chart here. The marriage relationship is one of the biggest ones that you will ever encounter. And we're showing on this transparency a couple that have their arms around one another and they're just getting married. And everybody is wishing them well. And yet, it's probably going to be the biggest experience of their life in learning how to communicate with their specially chosen loved one. And if you have a partner who yells and who gets angry, you might as well forget about communicating because it's absolutely impossible to communicate with anyone who is in that state of mind. And you don't have to act superior and say, well, when you're ready to calm down, then I'll talk to you. You're acting just like a child. Woo! Have you ever asked for more anger pouring over you? You cannot demean anyone who is angry and upset. But you can't treat them like a child either because that's very demeaning. You can say, I'm sorry to see you're upset, but I would like to postpone this conversation until we're both calm and can really love one another through it. That sounds like something you'd never say, doesn't it? And yet, listen to it again. I can see you're upset, and that tells me this is not the right time for us to talk about it. Let's have dinner. Let's have a peaceful evening. And when things are feeling better, then let's discuss it, but not now when you're feeling so upset. And so you are being the wise person in the relationship. Now, unfortunately, if you've married a beginning soul, a soul that is just learning how to express their emotions on planet Earth, you're never going to be able to just talk to them. They work through emotions, and that's a very, very hard one to get along with. But if you have someone that can be compassionate and understanding and listen with full mind and heart, you'll have a wonderful relationship. But there is the difference of all of these different kinds of relationships, of siblings with one another. If they can rise above their emotions and speak with their heart, which is not an emotion, it is actually a love connection. And that love connection helps you to feel that you are loved unconditionally, that they accept you exactly as you are. And boy, that's a gift. If you've got a mature enough soul that can accept you for who you are without judgment, you've got a wonderful relationship. And unfortunately, it's rare. So, again, if you have a sibling that you can talk to and you can get along with and you can communicate with, you're very well blessed. And on the other hand, if you're into sports, as I'm showing another kind of relationship, and you have a coach that is not yelling at you, but is always encouraging you. If you fall down, they help pick you up and brush you off and send you out again with a pat on the back. You're very blessed to have that kind of a relationship. And so, again, if you have a coach that is always putting you down and yelling at you need to just leave because you cannot change people. You cannot say, okay, that's a young soul, or come up to them and say, you're just a baby soul. You don't know what you're doing. That would go over really well, wouldn't it? No, you can't do that. And so, even with a parent, sometimes there are children who believe they raised their parents. because they knew they had a wiser, older soul, which had patience and compassion. Whereas the parent was always yelling, the parent was always demanding, the parent was always grabbing you and then wanting you to hug and kiss them because they needed to have that kind of emotional serenity and they didn't get it on their own. And unfortunately, you probably have an immature soul for a parent, and you probably are the older soul. It's the way it works on planet Earth. We don't always get the best of parents, but on the other hand, when we do, believe me, count it as a blessing because there's a lot of people out there who have baby souls for parents and they end up parenting their parents. And so, again, looking at the different kinds of relationships, we look at the teacher student relationship. Here again, it's really important that you pay attention to how the teacher is teaching. If the teacher is watching you and watching if you're understanding, if the teacher is able to be interrupted when you have a question and not be angry that you've interrupted them, then you have a mature soul as a teacher and you're well blessed. But if you have a teacher who wants adulation, who wants you to think they're the smartest person on earth, who wants you to clap when they say something that's good, who wants you to laugh when they say something they think is funny, then you've got an immature soul who is looking to others to lift them up. And all you can do is be tolerant and patient with them and take as much as you can in asking questions. But a lot of those teachers don't want you to ask questions because they don't want to be interrupted in their train of thought. And they will just give you the assignment, tell you to read it, and be prepared for a test. Well, everybody's different, and every teacher is different. And because everybody has a soul, and every soul is different. Excuse me. Take some water here. So you can begin to see that in this world, we are all different kinds of people. Our souls come in different colors that demonstrate their point of view and how they're going to work in the world. So when that soul is just beginning to figure out what happens when I do this and that consequences is not comfortable, they will often act as though this is a surprise to them. And they can get angry if anger seems to be their immediate reaction, you know you're dealing with a very baby soul. And if that seems to be that they will retaliate and they will say nasty things about you because they think you were saying nasty things about them, they are just beginner souls. And you need to just excuse them if you can, but do not allow them to trample all over you. And at times, you need to stand up to these baby souls. And there are really a lot of them in our government. They are wanting their needs to be met just like a little child wants their mother to feed them when they're hungry and to stroke them when they need love. Those are baby souls when they act like that. And that simply means that they're not going to change. You can't expect that if you teach them, they're going to change. They're going to grow up overnight. No, unfortunately, for baby souls, it takes many lifetimes. Yes, many lifetimes that they die, they leave, they learn from what their life through their life review, they look at what happened in the next world that they go to, which they call heaven, but you have a life review before that. And you get to look at how you reacted to other people, how other people reacted to you. You get to see all of that in your life review. And then you're counseled by your council of elders. And then you plan the next lifetime. So you've gathered knowledge and therefore wisdom in each lifetime. So even these baby souls are beginning to understand the law of cause and effect. That if you do this, this is going to happen. Beginner souls don't know what's going to happen. And so they just keep doing it over and over and over again. until sometimes they'll wake up and go, oh, maybe I shouldn't do it that way. And they try another way. But please understand, we've got a lot of baby souls in the United States of America, and they're still stumbling their way through, and they are looking for all of their needs to be met. That's number one. They're looking for their needs to be met. What are their needs? Their needs to have applause, their need to be heard, their need to be able to save the planet, maybe, their need to create better laws. Those are usually older souls that do that. Beginner souls are only looking for their own private needs, their need to be applauded. That's ego. Their need to have all of their needs met so that the need might be prosperity and abundance. And so they will look for the big contributors, and they will bend to that contributor's word and that needs of that contributor so they can get lots of money. And there's always those who will cheat, because beginner souls don't know the consequences of their actions, and they will cheat. They will really not know that they're actually falling into the trap of being of creating ill will in their life. And so here again, relationships are one of the biggest problems that we have when we talk about the games people play. There are many of them. In politics, again, is one of the biggest games people can play. I'm putting this game board back up and showing you that yes, games people play. There we go. Oops. Okay. That's life. Everybody's got a game. And your game board is your life laid out for you and the people who will be called to be on your game board. Now, God bless you if you have tuned in to Betty Ray and Raphael. Raphael is giving you this information to make your life more comfortable, to make you happier. Because when you realize that you are the person who moves on that game board, who realizes the traps that others have set up for you by trying to get you to be there to fulfill their needs. And when you decide that's not comfortable for you and you walk away, you sometimes lose a friend. And that's part of their growing up and your growing up. So we're not just growing up in this lifetime, we're growing up in our souls, every single one of us. And you will always be able to see an older soul by how they accept you lovingly without judgment, how they will listen to you, really listen and ask questions. When you say something, they will want you to clarify it so that they can understand even more. Those are older souls, and that's what a real conversation is like. When two people exchange ideas and listen to the rebuttal about something they don't agree with, not saying, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, or saying something derogatory, or raising their voice over yours so that they can be heard. You're dealing with a younger baby soul, and you might as well give up the ghost because you're not going to be able to get through. And that's where, when I tried to show everybody the difference between fact and opinion, it was they agreed with my student that said, I hate school and that's a fact. Whereas facts are when you are looking at a situation and you've looked at all of the facts that are shown as scientific proof, meaning that you have done the research to see if that is true. You look what other people have to say, and several people who come up with the same conclusion are when you have a fact. It's people who have had the same experience that lead to the same results. Those are facts. And so here we have Dr. Fauci. He is a scientist, and he has studied diseases. Now, he's gone to college and universities, and he's become a doctor, which means, like, if you go to your dentist, you don't expect him to do an appendectomy. No, you would go to a surgeon for that. And this particular doctor that Fauci has is in diseases and immunization of diseases. And so he knows what those little tiny bugs that are invisible to us, he knows about that. Now, to have somebody say, oh, don't pay any attention to him, listen to me, let's go have a coronavirus party. I nearly freaked out when I heard that from a nurse who said that a patient she had who was dying of coronavirus said how she went to a coronavirus party because she thought the whole thing was a fraud. And as she was dying, she said to the nurse, I guess I was wrong. Holy Moses! Wrong? Yes, but what a way to find out about it. Now, when this person passed from this life and left that diseased body behind, she went to the other side. She went to heaven because that's where most all of us go. But sometimes we get stuck in what we call the between world. And that's a world where we don't want to leave this world. And we're sort of stuck in betwixt and between. We don't want to go on. We want to be able to tell people whatever it is we've learned. And so we try and find a medium, somebody who can listen to souls who have passed over. And then we want to tell them, we want to tell everybody, it isn't a hoax. It's the real thing. And I just died from it. Pay attention. That was a wake-up call. But what a way to wake up on the other side with no body. To be in your spirit body, which is an exact duplicate of your physical body. That's what you take with you. Oh, dear ones, I know time is going by quickly, and there's so much that Raphael wants to share with you to teach you about how you are a beautiful, magnificent spirit. And you are light. You are divine light created by God. God is you. All that light is God dwelling within you. And as you listen to your divine guidance, to the goodness that you can create in the world, and you let go of anger and you let go of controlling other people, you let go of fears and anxieties that keep you all upset and not being able to hear your divine guidance, which comes to you from your own guardian angel, comes from the archangels, just as Raphael is talking to me right now to give me these words to speak to you, because Raphael is my guide at this point in time in my life. And all of the wisdom that I have learned in my 80 some years here on the planet, all of that has been given to me through an archangel. I have been extremely blessed. And I share this blessing with you and ask you to pay attention by meditating every day, by taking time to be quiet and listen rather than letting your mind jabber, jabber, jabber all the time. And by letting yourself continue to play the games people want you to play on Earth's game board. They want you to be captivated with what you're going to say to them next. A person that insulted you yesterday, you're going to get back to them today. Oh no, because all you're doing is playing the game over and over and over again. And you really, really don't want to do that. What you really want to do is open your mind and heart and soul to love, to compassion, to being a good listener that really hears what the other person has to say and doesn't have to interrupt with what you want to say. It doesn't have to raise your voice to hold that attention of the other person. No, a soul who is mature learns to listen, learns to ask the person questions to clarify what they are saying. And so each of you learn to be a good listener, but also learn to be compassionate and to have a two-sided conversation rather than let anyone else have the floor constantly because they're out shouting you. You can't win with those baby souls by out shouting. And you see that in government. You see that in people who are leaders who want to have the last word. We're in a world now that is changing drastically. Our planet is suffering. It's suffering because we are raping the earth for its minerals, for its wealth, so that individuals can be wealthier and have what they think are their needs met. The problem is, no matter how big their house is, it's never big enough. No matter how beautiful their house is decorated, it's never quite good enough. And that's because they're looking to the riches of earth to fulfill their soul, and that's never going to happen. The riches of the Spirit are what's going to fill their soul. You are divine beings of light, dear ones. What's going to fulfill your soul is joy, peace, harmony, wisdom, knowledge, seeking knowledge, wanting to learn new things, wanting to gain more wisdom, being willing to listen, being willing to accept people as they are without trying to change them. Then you know you are an advanced soul. And so, if you're listening, dear ones, you know that if you are listening to Archangel Raphael and Betty Ray, you are listening because you are drawn to it because you are not a beginner soul. And I know when we talk about politics and we bring in things like the one time when we talked about the seven deadly sins as being a way of measuring if a person is following the Christian precepts of what is right and wrong, and those who do not, they are antichrists, meaning that they do not follow the golden rule. They do not follow Moses and the Ten Commandments because they are too busy fulfilling their own needs, their baby souls. They are simply feeling starved and they will take whatever is in front of them to feed their needs. Do not judge them. Instead, pity them because they will never be happy in this world until they learn that they are a soul, that they are a spirit that is eternal, that goes on. They will never be happy because they're only thinking, now is the moment. If I don't get what I need now, then I'm going to have a tizzy fit. Those are babies. And there are lots of them. There are lots of them on the planet, but there are also wise old souls out there. And you can see it by the way they know how to listen to what you have to say, by their compassion, by their willingness to be a servant to you, to listen to you and to help you. They're not into it just for themselves. They are here as emissaries of light from God. And you know who they are. Those are the spiritual leaders that have raised many people up of every denomination and faith because there's no one pathway to God. Every pathway that has a leader of light will bring that light from God to their fellow beings and right back to God. There are many pathways to God, dear ones, and every one is followed by light and angels to help guide you. Know that it is the way it is. You are a spirit first and a sentient being second. When you allow your sentient beingness, your physical body's needs to be primary, including your sexual needs, to be primary over what you know is the golden rule, the laws of the commandments, the laws of the universe, whatever you want to call them, you still put your physical and emotional needs first, then you know you're not you are a new soul. You are not an old soul. A lot of people ask me, am I an old soul? Most people who are here are still learning, and yet God has sent back many advanced souls and even have sent angels to be ensouled. So there are angels walking among you, dear ones, who are always filled with joy and always ready to give a helping hand. And you will say it, oh, you're an angel. You might be real. That person is ensouled by an angelic being. So be one yourself. Imagine that you are a divine being of light as you are. If you're a soul or if you're an angel, you are here to bring divine light on a darkened planet that desperately needs you. You are here to follow the divine inspiration for you to create beauty and goodness in your world. That's your job, to make your home clean and uncluttered and fill it with beauty, to be a creator with God, to follow that divine inspiration and not just put it on the back burner, but actually to bring it out. Now that we're confined to our homes, what a great time to learn to meditate. What a great time to learn to just sit and be quiet and listen. What a great time to call somebody and be a listener rather than the talker. What a great time to expand the brightness of your soul by the compassion and the understanding you show to others. What a great time to learn to smile even when your heart is crying about something, to smile through your tears, because this coronavirus has many blessings for you at this time. And when you begin to look for the blessings in life, your eyes will widen because you will be absolutely amazed and surprised because there are many blessings that are being given because of this coronavirus. And when you accept whatever is happening in your life as a gift, as an opportunity for your soul to stretch and grow with love and compassion for others and understanding, when you are willing to listen to your good angels and not to your own needs being prominent, as being the thing that you follow, regardless if it takes you to the dark side or not. Yes, time is just about up, and so we have to say goodbye for now. We are saying to you, each of you, have a blessed day, wear the mask, and when you go out with other people, remember you are a soul of divine light. Blessings on all of you. Have a great day. Hey, and we have that booked on Hallelujah, right? You're still working on the recording, right? Yes. Oh, I'm sure you are. Bless your heart. Bless your heart. You're never done. Your day is never done, is it? Has Dean found anybody else yet? No, of course not. No, of course not. And you're expected to carry the entire load? That's what suggests on it. Well, maybe God is pushing you out, making you go somewhere else. So if you are inspired, if you keep getting knocks on your door about thinking about leaving, then I, as one of your people who would miss you so much, I urge you to follow that call, because you cannot sacrifice your needs to the point of your health. You cannot do that. And so I encourage you. Well, how about that? I forgot to turn off my phone, and here we go. Somebody is calling me. Turn off YouTube. Oh my gosh, that's right. Thank you. Here I am talking to Rebel, and I forgot to turn off YouTube. Fortunately, I'm going to do that right now as soon as I get it here. End stream. Bye, everybody. Okay. Oh my gosh.